Show me the money.
All right, show me the money. NFL picks are here for week number 6. It's been a very interesting year, to say the least. Joining me today, somebody we last talked to during the Last Dance back in April, my good friend and Giant fan, Phil Lombardo. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. It's great to be back. I'm excited.
It's exciting, and it's easy for us because we're sitting at home with our computers without risking coronavirus, but the NFL's had a much harder time dealing with this.
Yeah, they definitely have, but you know what? So far they've taken care of business, but it's only going to get more complicated from here.
It absolutely will, and I mean, just to make the point, last week on week 5, we had Denver, New England ready to go on Sunday afternoon. They have a COVID test positive day up for New England, and I don't know if you saw, but they had to do quite a bit of shuffling. Did you manage to keep track of all the changes?
I didn't keep track of all the changes, to be honest with you, because I know that there's going to be more changes coming that are going to affect the changes they just made. So it's just things are going to keep happening, and they're going to have to keep shuffling things around, and eventually teams are going to have to forfeit games, or they're going to have to just completely cancel games. They might. I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL ends up removing one game from each team's season to kind of counteract everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, luckily for you, I did write down all the changes. So if you want to take out a pen and paper here, I'll go over for listeners too what's going on with the schedule. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll keep a mental note.
All right. So let's start off here. This is from the NFL's Twitter account. The league announced Sunday afternoon a number of scheduling changes stemming from this week's postponement. Among them is that the Broncos-Patriots game we moved to Week 6 on Sunday, October 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. So we got that. Broncos-Patriots back a week. 7 other games affected by the postponement. Start off with the Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo Bills Week 6 game moves from Thursday, October 15th to Monday, October 19th at 5 o'clock p.m. That's one. The Jets at Dolphins game moves from Week 10 to Week 6. The Jets-Chargers game moves from Week 6 to Week 11. Phil, let me know if I'm losing you at any point.
You already have.
I'll keep going. Anyway, just to the people who are following along. The Jaguars at Chargers game moved up from Week 8 to Week 7. The Chargers-Broncos game moved from Week 11 up to Week 8. Chargers-Dolphins game moves from Week 7 to Week 10. So there's a lot of moving parts, especially for the Chargers. Dolphins-Broncos, who's scheduled for this week, goes back to Week 11. As a result, 6 teams now have different bye weeks. Denver goes up from Week 8 to Week 5. New England up from Week 6 to Week 5. Los Angeles Chargers from Week 10 to Week 6. Miami up from Week 11 to Week 7. Jacksonville back from 7 to 8. And the Jets up from 11 to 10. And at this point, in the words of the great Vince Lombardi, what the hell's going on out here? This is a disaster.
It's an absolute disaster. And right now, all I can think about is fantasy football owners everywhere who, when they were doing their drafts, they go, oh, I only got 2 guys on this week. I got 2 guys on this week. None of my weeks are going to be messed up. And now all of a sudden, everything's just getting moved around and people are pulling their hair out.
Yeah, you and I are both fantasy football commissioners, so we have to sit here and come out on the fly. Like, what are we going to do if they don't play the Titans-Bills game, even though it did get played? What are we going to do for our fellow managers if the league doesn't play these games?
Yeah, and, me and you did the same exact thing. We gave people the option to, just phone in or, shoot a text over to us and have a backup plan. We weren't going to let people pick people up after the fact to plug into their lineups, but if they had them on their team already, they could have their plan B players and we would plug them in manually. And I think that's how everybody should do it. At least right now, while it's easy enough. If it gets more complicated, we'll have to figure out a different method. But for now, this works.
Yeah, we're lucky to the point where it's only been like 1 game and in clear doubt. But imagine if you're in a week where all of a sudden there's 4 games, you don't know if they're going to play or not. Then you're going to have real problems if you're the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what? Baseball had to do it where, the Cardinals didn't play for 2 weeks? Yeah. The Marlins didn't play for 11 days or something like that. So imagine having them have a team just not play for 2 weeks because of what's going on. I just don't see how logistically it's going to work.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it's going to be a very inequitable season. I think the obvious thing, which our good friend Nick Frietta criticized when the schedule came out back in, I want to say May, was like they really acted like it was going to be business as usual, where, okay, we're going to have our normal schedule. We put a couple of things in here where, like, the week 2 teams have a share the bye week, but, like, they really should have put in an extra bye week this year to give themselves more wiggle room, but they sort of banked on the country being over the coronavirus by the time the season kicked off, and they completely lost that bet.
Yeah, well, the thing was, I think they also had the capabilities, at least, to move the season start up 1 week and then add that extra bye week in, because they didn't have a preseason. So you had those 4 weeks to play with that they just did nothing, and teams weren't even, they weren't doing much. And then all of a sudden you just start the season and everybody's cold and you just kind of wing it. I don't know. I mean, I will say this, though. I'd rather have a team forfeit a game than push things back to the point where you start screwing up the week after and the week after and the week after. Because if the league starts digging too deep of a hole, it's going to create a logistical problem that they're not going to have a solution for, and it could completely ruin the season.
Yeah, I think one thing I would be alert for here is, like, I would not be shocked they move the Super Bowl back a couple of weeks, because they had the flexibility to do it. I know for a while they wanted to get closer to President's Day weekend so people have the Monday off after work, Monday off of work after the Sunday night Super Bowl. So I would not be surprised if they somehow are forced to try that this year. I think it would not be a bad idea.
It wouldn't be a bad idea at all, and I think everybody would be very thankful for that.
Yes, they would. And speaking of teams that are thankful, unfortunately, your Giants are not quite there yet. They had a tough game against the Cowboys last week. I thought for a while you were going to get that first win, but it just didn't happen at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was another tough loss for the Giants. There's basically 3 things I'd like to say in regards to this game. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers out to Dak Prescott. I mean, you know me, I hate the Cowboys more than most people hate the Cowboys. I wish nothing but losses on their overall record, but you never want to see an injury like that, especially to a guy like him, who honestly, since he's been in the league, he's carried himself like a pro, and he just seems like a really good guy. He does a lot with charity, and I honestly wish nothing but the best for him. But once he gets better, he can lose to the Giants every single time for all I care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'll say go ahead. I think that's a good point with Dak. Obviously, like, tough spot for him, but, like, and for me, the thing that sticks out to me this game also is, like, the turnovers that Daniel Jones commits are just very problematic, and I was also discouraged watching that game, knowing that he got the ball back, a chance to go down, win the game, basically went 3 and out, and then Dallas guy went right down the field for the win.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit more when we talk about Daniel Jones in more detail, but, yeah, what some of the decisions he's made this season have been very worrisome, to say the least.
Yeah. What else did you have? What else bothered you about that game?
Well, the one thing that, bothered me the most is that the Giants actually outplayed the Cowboys. And I'll say that until I'm big blue in the face. I know that's an awful pun, but I had to say it because I thought of it earlier, and I'm like, I got to just throw that in there and just make people cringe.
Of course.
But they honestly, like, the Giants at this point in their history are so stuck in their losing ways, they just continue to find ways to lose. The fumble by Jones to give the defensive touchdown right back to the Cowboys when they were up 17-3 after their defensive touchdown, and then they gave up a touchdown on offense, and then Jones gives up a fumble and they tie the game up. That's number 1 for me. Number 2, that illegal formation on the Giants on an absolutely brilliant fake field goal call by Joe Judge. Honestly, I can't remember the last time the Giants called a fake punt, fake field goal. Maybe I don't know if I've ever seen it or can ever remember them doing it. And honestly, like, the inability to play the ball in the air on 2 straight throws by Andy Dalton to Michael Gallup on the final drive.
Yeah,
those are the 3 things that really stick out to me in that game. That really just bugged me because those 3 things, one of them goes in our favor, then we end up winning the game.
You do. I do think the call on that penalty there on the fake field was also a little ticky tack. So I do feel for the Giant fans there, because even Tony Romo was as big a Cowboy guy as there is. Said, boy, Giants got screwed on that.
Yeah, I understand that calls are going to be missed or calls are going to be made that might be a little ticky-tack, but honestly, it's just like, leave no doubt. Leave no doubt at the end of the day. And let me just throw this in there. Of course, Greg Zuerlein, when he kicks that field, he has to tease us by making the ball wiggle to the right like it's going to go wide, only to come back and sneak right inside the goalpost for another classic Giants loss.
Yeah, it certainly is a classic loss for the Giants, but we have seen through the 5 games that Joe Judge had, they do not have a win yet, but they have been far more competitive than my guys who haven't even bothered playing in 4 of the 5 games. So what's your take about year 1 of Joe Judge so far?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the wins aren't there yet, and I don't like it, obviously. I don't like it Joe Judge definitely doesn't like it, and I know the front office doesn't like it. They are sick of losing. But I have seen some things that give me slight hope. A couple of positives and I'll just throw a few players, is that, a couple of guys we got in free agency look like they're legitimate starting football players in the NFL, which some of the Giants defenders haven't been in the last few years. Blake Martinez, he's a player. The Giants haven't had a legitimate middle linebacker since Antonio Pierce. And the defense is clearly more organized and with him running the show. James Bradbury, he's a player. He was good in Carolina, but he's taken the next step in New York, and he's really shown that he could be a leader and a legitimate number one corner. And thirdly, I think everybody saw it if you watched the Giants-Cowboys game at least, that Darius Slayton proved that his rookie year was absolutely no fluke. He can ball. And if Jones can get any sort of protection, there is no reason why he should not be catching 5+ balls a game. And then, for the rest of the season, he could definitely score 6 to 8 more touchdowns. But other than that, there's just not too much to be proud of in East Rutherford. But when it comes to Joe Judge, he's kind of at the mercy of Dave Gettleman right now. But I don't think that's going to last much longer. I think Dave Gettleman's gone next year. I think they just cut their losses because he's just made too many questionable decisions, and they haven't seen any results. Even if some of the guys he's picked have worked out for them, they just haven't seen the results. And maybe when it comes down to it, we get a guy in New York that sees eye to eye with Joe Judge when it comes to changing the culture, and we see some real differences in 2021. But I will say this: I think the team is playing harder than it has in years. And I do see noticeable improvement in defense and special teams. That I can definitely say definitively. So while the verdict's still out on Coach Judge because it's a result-based business, and let's be honest, they're 0-5, I do hold out some hope that they can turn things around. But that really just relies on them getting rid of Dave Gettleman and bringing somebody in that actually knows how to change the culture.
Yeah, as far as the Gettleman goes there, I mean, obviously he's had some questionable moments in the draft, and this year is no exception. I know it's only 5 games, but Andrew Thomas has not looked good at left tackle so far, and it doesn't make you feel good when you look across town. You see Mekhi Becton look an absolute stud for the Jets.
No, it does, and there was a lot of options out there. And I will say, Tristan Wirfs, he looks like he's a player for Tampa. I think guys are just terrified into being good players when Tom Brady's their quarterback because for some reason they just keep. Whenever he has offensive linemen that they come out of nowhere and they're amazing, and it's just very annoying. But I will say this. It's year one. Andrew Thomas was not supposed to necessarily even have to be pushed into a starting role. And then Nate Solder, of course, decides that he doesn't want to play football. So, you're kind of forced to throw the rookie right in there. And I think, he's a smart kid. He's a strong kid. He's a big kid. He has decent feet. He just needs to work on his footwork. And I think he improves year 2 and on. But, it is nerve-wracking when you see a guy like Mekhi Becton who seemed ready from day one.
Yeah, it does. And I think the big question the Giants have to answer here is what Daniel Jones is and if he can get rid of these turnover problems. Because we talked about it last year, fumbles are correctable. He had a great year passing, but the fumbles have continued. He's made a couple of bad decisions passing the football. And to me, if I'm a Giant fan, if my team somehow outdoes the Jets in terms of suckitude and ends up at number 1, I do have to think strongly about Trevor Lawrence. Yeah,
honestly, I think obviously there's still 11 weeks left. There's still 11 games for him to right the ship. But, I will say this. At the end of last year, I was on the DJ train. I wasn't necessarily happy with the pick when they made it, but he showed me something. He really he showed some toughness. He showed the ability to move around in the pocket. He was working through his progressions. He was making a lot of tough throws and pushing the ball downfield better than Eli certainly was towards the end of his career. And obviously the fumbling was an issue, but that was something that everybody, thought that he could work on and fix over time. But after watching him these first 5 weeks, you can't help but have some questions about whether he actually is the guy. And it doesn't help that the offensive line is still a disaster, which is going to stun his development. Thank you, Dave Gettleman. But the turnovers are still a glaring problem. And he hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 1. He hasn't thrown 1 touchdown since week 1. And he threw 2 in week 1. And since then, we've gotten a donut 4 weeks in a row. And that's just unacceptable in today's NFL. And he's honestly, I haven't seen a quarterback not able to go through his progressions since the Giants of 2017 when Eli was just getting sacked after 2 seconds every single time.
Yeah, the good news, though, I think, for the Giants, they've been playing hard. They do get a team they can beat coming in on Sunday and watching, and I think they have a great shot to win this game. What do you think the big key is here for them to get in the win column finally?
Yeah, I mean, we both touched on it. The Giants showed some improvement over the last few weeks. They're playing tough, and they were away from home playing tough. Washington has enough of its own problems. They benched Dwayne Haskins, and let's be real, they literally don't even have an identity. They don't have a name. So I'll say this. For the Giants to beat Washington, they need to eliminate the silly penalties. They had 8 penalties for 81 yards last week, and that really cost them against the Cowboys. And they have to show the same tenacity as they have the last few weeks. Come out like you're 10-5, and this win gets you into the playoffs. Take care of the football, win the battle in the trenches, and execute. And I know that's what Joe Judge is saying. He's definitely a trenches kind of guy. And I do think they win their first game of the season this week. But nothing, and I mean nothing, surprises me anymore with this team. So if they go out and put up an absolute stinker of a performance and lose 31-3, will I be shocked? No, they lost to Nick Mullins 36-9 or whatever the score was. So,
yeah, I could see that. I do think they're going to win this game. Although I think you have to have some hope for is that because the Giants division is absolutely terrible. Like, who knows? This could be a year where 6-10 gets you a division title in the NFC East if you just happen to take care of your business in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Giants get to 6 wins, but I wouldn't be shocked if 6 wins wins the division this year. There are some bad football teams in the NFC East. The Eagles, we at least thought would be a contender to make like a maybe sneak in the playoffs, but they've been an absolute disaster. Carson Wentz has regressed since he came into the league. Obviously, the Redskins, we just said, are a disaster. And the Cowboys just, they do Cowboys things just like the Giants do Giants things. It's inexplicable for the Cowboys, though, because they have the talent. But now, you lose Tyron Smith, you lose Dak Prescott, so there's a bunch of question marks. But I still think that the Cowboys end up winning the division pretty handily.
Yeah, I do too. Let's get to the reason you're here today. We're gonna do some NFL picks. My good friend Chris, not the Mad Dog Russo, was here last week. He did go 2-1 on the week. He had the Dolphins +8 in San Francisco as the 49ers. He won that one outright. He had the Texans laying 6 at home against the Jaguars. They won that one going away. He did lay the 2.5 with our good friend Dan DiMartini's Colts against the Browns, and that one backfired him. So 2-1 on the week for Chris.
Yeah, that's not bad. 2-1. I think I've gone 2-1 the last 2 times I made the pick, so I'm hoping to improve to 3-0.
Yeah, he did go 2-1. I gave him a lot of credit for the Dolphin pick. That was not one I would have gone near, and he did take care of business on that. But on the other hand, I feel pretty good about this week. I did go 3-0 last week. 3-0 on the week. I had the Ravens laying the 13.5 in Cincinnati against the Cincinnati Bengals. They won that game running away. They had the Chargers +7.5 on Monday night against the Saints. They covered the number. They should have won that game outright if Michael Badgley's kick does not doink off the upright. And I laid the Cardinals, laid the 7 against the Jets. That seems to be easy money. So 3-0 on the week there.
Yeah. You kind of got an easy one with that Cardinals, huh?
Yeah, the Cardinals
was a little suspect.
Yeah, so on the year, both sides are off to a hot start. But Challenger's 11-4. Phil, I'm actually 13-2 on the year.
Mike, you're getting better every year. Look at you.
Yep, we are going to go at it again though. Week number 6 picks are up. Phil, you're up with your first pick. Where are you going?
All right, so I'm going to go with one of the more highly anticipated matchups between these two teams in a very long time. Pittsburgh -3.5 over Cleveland. Now, these teams come into the year with a combined 8-1 record, and while Baker Mayfield has silenced some of the critics from seasons past, I'm still not completely sold on the Browns. A win in Pittsburgh would certainly raise some eyebrows, but I'm still taking Pittsburgh at home, 31-27.
Hey, hard to not go with the Steelers there, especially considering we are recording on Thursday. OBJ had to leave practice today because he's feeling sick under the weather, and if he can't play the game, that's a big problem for the Steelers. But that's one I think I personally stay away from. That's my opinion. Where are you going with your next pick?
Okay, yeah, well, I'm going to go with Dallas. They're at home. They're +2.5 over Arizona. And now, it might be easy to count Dallas out 1 week after losing their leader, Dak Prescott, and their linchpin tackle, Tyron Smith, to season-ending injuries. But I'll take a saying out of Lee Corso's book and say, not so fast. Dallas has an extremely capable backup in Andy Dalton, who's getting the opportunity to prove that he's still got it. Pair that with a plethora of weapons that the Cowboys have, and I think at home they don't have too much trouble with Arizona. Sure, the Cardinals are an improved team, and I think Tyler Murray's a fun guy to watch, but I just simply see Dallas as the more motivated club coming into this week's matchup. Dallas takes this one easily, 34-21.
I love that pick. I'm right there with you because I think this is one where the Cardinals, I don't think they're going to be up for the primetime moment here. I think everybody's forgetting that Dalton's still a good quarterback. He can win games with the kind of weapons he has. And get the Cowboys getting points at home, give me that all day against the Cardinals team. That did not look that great against the Jets, despite winning by 20.
I completely agree. So, my last game I picked, I'm going to take Indianapolis. So, Chris had some trouble with them last week, but I'm going to go with them -8 over Cincinnati. And I know I'm taking a bit of a risk here, especially because of Indy's defensive leader, Darius Leonard, has mispracticed again. It's his 4th straight mispractice, so his status is still up in the air. But I'm saying he's going to play. It's a crucial game for the Colts. They dropped a tough one to Cleveland last week, and they're 2 games behind in the loss column to Tennessee. And while Cincinnati's slowly crawling out of the doldrums of the NFL and making themselves into a more respectable opponent, the Colts defense is still very tough. And we know what tough defenses do to the rookie, Mike Phillips. They make them look like the rookie. Give me Indy over Cincinnati, 35-17.
All right, there you have it. Phil's 3 picks. The Colts pick is interesting. I do like it. I'm just a little concerned about the number because the Colts don't score a lot of points themselves. That's why I stayed away from it, but I can see the logic there.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. I think that the Colts come back. They come back with a good performance this week after kind of throwing up a dud last week.
And gee, I'm up now at my picks. Pick number 1, I'm going to continue the trend here. It's easy money. Laid at the points with the Dolphins, -8 against the Jets. The Jets are the worst team in football. Sam Darnold's out again. Mekhi Becton's out again. Le'Veon Bell is gone. Rashad Perriman might not play. Adam Gase, the worst coach in football. The Jets lose by an average of 17.5 points a game this season, and the Dolphins are only laying 8 at home after they put a big whipping on the 49ers last week. Give me those 8 points to the Dolphins. The Jets are going to go 0-6 against the spread. Pick 1.
No faith in your Jets, Mike. No faith.
It's easy money. They lose every game by double digits, and this number has not hit that high yet. Even the one it did, the Colts covered.
That's true. The New York Times had the Jets as one of the upset picks this week, too.
I don't know what they're on, but they are wrong about that. All right, pick number 2. I'm going to one of the big games of the week. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers, laying 2.5 on the road against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Tampa Bay, this number started out as Tampa Bay favored, quickly flipped to the Packers. Green Bay is one of the best teams in the league. People kind of forgot about that last year because they had played a bunch of close games. Aaron Rodgers on a mission to prove that the Packers made a mistake taking Jordan Love. You get Devontae Adams back this week, hopefully, which will help. Tampa Bay isn't very sketchy even when they have their guys healthy. I know they're getting back Chris Godwin and Mike Evans healthier, but I just don't trust the Bucs here in this spot against a much better football team. The play against the Bears concern me. The Packers had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. I can win with a field goal here. Give me the Packers laying 2.5, pick 2.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. That was going to be one of my picks if I didn't take Indianapolis over Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think the number is irresistible for me, not number 2. And pick number 3, I have to go with the dog this week. And this is when I look at this, I'm like, how are the Detroit Lions favored on the road against anyone in this league? The Lions are 3.5-point favorites in Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, I know, has not been good most this year, but they have a feisty quarterback in Gardner Minshew. They got some capable weapons. Detroit's defense is still a dumpster fire. Matt Patricia's team is coming off the bye. It's not like they have momentum coming in there. They just blew a big game against the Saints for it. I don't think the Lions should favor in this game. I'm getting the hook with the Jags is great. So give me Jacksonville plus 3.5, my final pick of the week.
Yeah, I can't fault you for that pick right there, although Detroit might take a 21-0 lead and blow it like they do every week. So
yeah. Plus, I love the hook here, and the Lions on the road should not be favoring against anyone, in my opinion. Except the Jets.
Yeah, no, I don't think that. I don't think they've done anything to deserve being an away favorite.
Yeah. So reset the picks of the week. Phil has gone with the Steelers, laying 3.5 at home against the Cleveland Browns. The Dallas Cowboys getting 2.5 at home on Monday night against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Indianapolis Colts laying 8 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. I have the Dolphins laying 8 points against the New York Jets in the lock of the week. The Green Bay Packers laying 2.5 on the road against Tampa Bay. And the Jacksonville Jaguars as 3.5-point home dogs against the Detroit Lions. And those are your picks for week number 6 on the podcast. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Sports Grid's Kevin Walsh Jr., a big Eagles guy. So we're going to be talking Giants-Eagles next week, and that's going to be on the short week. So that's going to be interesting to see how the Giants handle that.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think that game's going to be a lot of fun. I think the Giants, they could have a shot there.
Honestly, the way they played the last couple of weeks, they kind of surprised a lot of people. So who knows? Maybe they pull out a couple of games, in the middle of the year that you don't expect them to win. But at the same time, they're still a disaster in many areas. So you wouldn't be surprised if they lose every game from here on out. So
I would not either. Also, best of luck in fantasy football this week. We are playing in my league in week number 6. That's going to be a big game for both of us.
Yeah, it's a huge matchup. I think I don't know. Do we play in my league too? Actually,
I don't think we do. I think he played already. I think he beat me in your league.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're my only win in my league. I'm 1-4 with the most points in the league. At fantasy owners all around the world, you can feel my pain. The most points in the league, but I'm 1-4.
Yeah, sometimes that happens to you in fantasy. But Phil, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people find on social media? I'll keep up with some of the stuff you're up to.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Philtographs, PHILTOGRAPHS.
All right, Phil, it's a lot of fun. Also, one question for you. Did you get the chance to check out the Craig Carton documentary on HBO last week?
No, I didn't, but that is on my list. I have it saved and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm glad you do. Check that out. When you come back, when the podcast comes back, I'm going to be joined by our pop culture guys, Alan Ross. We're going to talk about the Craig Carton documentary and more right after this.